Are you tired of glute workouts that lead to no results? Well, it's time to shake things up a little bit. In today's video, we're exposing 5 mistakes that have been holding you back from a beautiful transformation. I'm gonna be showing you guys my glute and hamstring routine. This is a workout that I do every single Monday, and honestly, I try not to overcomplicate it. If your workout and your routines are complicated, you're not gonna stick with it, and the goal is to be able to do this for a long period of time. And I also wanna call out, because since we're talking about how to grow your glutes and how to maintain muscle, I would be doing us all a disservice if I did not say what you eat is so important. If you're not getting enough fats, carbohydrates, and especially protein into your diet every single day, you're not going to see results. So take everything that I say into consideration. If you're doing everything that I'm showing you, it will work with a sustainable diet that is hitting on your protein, fats, and carbohydrates. I can't stress enough how important it is to start your workouts with a solid warm-up. I normally start on the Stairmaster or treadmill for about 10 to 15 minutes. And you don't want to get to the point of fatigue, but you do want to get your heart rate increased. And this is going to prevent injury, and it's going to allow you to get the most out of your workout. Then after doing a 10 to 15 minute warm-up with light cardio, I move into dynamic stretches. And this is simply stretching but moving. I do try to get a nice little sweat going, but not to the point where I'm fatigued and tired and don't have enough energy for the workout. First, we're gonna get started with glute activations, and that leads me into mistake number 1 to avoid, and that is relying solely on resistance bands for your glute workouts. Resistance bands are great for warming up and burnout rounds, but they just don't provide your glutes with enough resistance to sustain you for you to see that glute growth that you're looking for. Getting started, I always pull out my medium to light resistance bands. We're going to put them about a little bit higher than your knees, but not too high up. The first exercise we're gonna do is resistance clams. So you're gonna come over to your side, making sure that your body is parallel. So you wanna be in a straight line, and then you're gonna bring your knees a little bit farther in so that your legs are at a 45-degree angle. Laying slightly on the left-hand side, this arm is kind of here just for support. You're not putting a lot of weight on this. You're going to keep your feet together. My feet are pointed directly straight, and you're going to open up this right thigh, the one that's on top, all the way up as high as you can go and coming back down. And you're going to do about 15 to 20 reps on each side. And again, this is a part of our warm-up, so it's gonna burn, and it's going to get your glutes nice and warm so that when we move into our actual routine, you're ready to go. Moving to the other side, you're gonna do the same exact thing, lying on this right hand. This left hand now is for support. Oh, and you're gonna feel this. You're gonna feel this on the 3rd or 4th one, so you can use the lightest resistance band for this one. Next, we're gonna move into fire hydrants. And so for this one, you're going to keep your back nice and flat. I should be able to put a glass of water on your back when you're doing this exercise. You're going to tuck your feet in, bringing that left leg up as high as you possibly can, and then back down to meet the right knee. The biggest mistake I see people doing with fire hydrants is their back. They're either here, where they're arching their back, or they're here, and oh gosh, I don't know what to do. For the last resistance band warm up, what you're gonna do is bring your feet to about shoulder length apart. For a lot of glute exercises, you're really focused on that hip hinge. That's gonna help you engage those glutes, and so this is what this is gonna work. You're gonna come down to about a little bit about quarter squat, not all the way down, coming up and then coming up on those toes, really focus in on bringing those hips in. And the reason you're not going all the way down is because the main focus of this is that hip hinge. I am already feeling it. If you are doing the exercises correct, I promise you, you will feel it in the 3rd or 4th rep. The first exercise we're doing is Romanian deadlifts, and these are by far one of my favorite exercises for glutes. And how we're gonna do this exercise today is supersetting it with another form of Romanian deadlifts, and that's gonna increase the intensity and really get us emphasizing that glute growth. So to break down Romanian deadlifts, what you're gonna do is first start with your feet directly in front of you. You don't want one foot up, one foot back. You want them completely in alignment. And then coming down, when it comes to your grip, what you're gonna do is when you look at a barbell, there is a groove section and then a more like silky light section. So what I do is I take my thumb and I place it directly on the center piece, right where the groove meets the silky part. And then I'm going to wrap my thumb underneath for that grip. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side, placing my thumb directly where that groove and the silky part meet, wrapping it underneath, and that is where your hand placement should be. Now, what some people do is they'll have one hand underneath and one hand over top. You do the same thing of placing the thumb here, wrapping it, but then I would just move my hand so that it's like so. One of the most important things when it comes to a Romanian deadlift is your posture in your core. So let me show you something. When you're doing this exercise, a lot of people stand with an anterior pelvic tilt. And what that means is their hips are back here. This is not in alignment. This is not engaging your core. So what you want to do is tuck that hip in, engage that core. This is also going to take a lot of pressure off of your lower back and lower spine. So if you go through a lot of lower body workouts or glute exercises and you leave and your back feels like it's hurting a lot more than maybe even your glutes, then you may not be engaging your core correctly. So to do that again, you're just going to tuck in that core, roll it in, and this is how you should be performing the exercise when you start going down. The next most important thing is to remember that this movement is not up and down. This movement is back. So you almost want to pretend like you have a tail and someone is pulling your tail of your booty back behind you. Your head is tucked down, your shoulders are back nice and tight, and you're slowly gonna lower, not all the way down to the ground, just about like the center of the knees, and then coming right back up. So let me show you what this looks like all together. Again, getting my hands in alignment, moving back from here. I'm getting my feet in position, and then my butt is down. Your butt's not here. We don't have a direct when you're starting off. Your butt is down, even when you're getting set into position. I'm slowly lowering and then coming right back up. Next up, we're gonna perform B Stands RDLs. And what I wanted to do with these is show you guys how to do RDLs with dumbbells. You can also do these with a barbell, just like what we did, but you can also do them with a dumbbell if you're a little bit beginner or just getting started, or if barbells are a little bit intimidating. And so B Stands RDLs are great for your glutes and your hamstrings. And so these are a unilateral movement, which I think are really important to add into your exercises to help with imbalances, and normally a little bit more intense than a compound exercise. The regular RDL that we just did is a compound exercise, and what that means is you're involving multiple muscle groups all at once. So that regular RDL is hitting your glutes, your hamstrings, and your quads. This B Stands RDL is going to focus just on this left leg to start, and then we'll move over to the right leg, and you're really focused in on those glutes and hamstrings. Again, this back leg is only here for support. Right now, the left leg is going to be getting all of the work, and you're going to do the exact same thing we just did. Slowly lowering yourself down, keeping that tin tucked nice and tight, coming back up. And I also didn't mention this on the last exercise, but you don't want to come here and you don't want to have your hips here when you come back up. You're just coming up straight and tall, pushing those hips back, and then coming up. We're going to switch over to the other side. Now the right leg is going to be getting all of the work and the left leg is just for support. And the reason I love these Stands RDLs is because I take them nice, slow, and controlled. And I promise you, slowing down your movements is going to allow it to be more effective. And when doing these nice and controlled, you're going to get that muscle, mind, body connection, which is going to allow you to get more out of your workouts. So if you are not having the proper form, it's not going to allow you to get the maximum output out of your workout. So you really want to take it nice and slow and controlled to make sure you're hitting the points of the movement that you need. Next up, we're doing Bulgarian split squats. I know. You're gonna hate me, but I promise you, these are so worth it for targeting those glutes. I think a lot of us have seen how to get in the proper Bulgarian split squat stance, but just in case if you haven't, what you're gonna do is put this back foot on the bench, come all the way down and get into your comfortable position with your leg out and stand up like so. So again, just to show you that, putting your foot back on the bench, coming down, you're gonna get comfortable in the position of where your foot is just directly in front of you, and then stand up. So with Bulgarian split squats, these are, again, an isolation movement. We're just isolating our right leg right now. And so you can come directly down, and this is gonna be more quad focused, or for today's exercise, you're gonna come out a little bit farther and you're gonna have a slight lean in that upper body to come down here, and that's gonna focus more on that glute muscle. Coming back up here, hopping out just a little bit. My foot is directly in front of me. My upper body and my hips are squared center. I'm going to put a dumbbell. Should have grabbed it. I put a dumbbell in my right hand. I only do one dumbbell normally because it allows me to stay a little bit more controlled. Coming back, standing up directly, slight lean in that upper body. My hips are centered. My foot is directly in front of me. I'm looking up. My chin is tucked down. My core is engaged, and I'm slowly lowering. Next up, we're doing hip thrust. And so I like to use a little cushion to protect my hips. And so I wrap this underneath the barbell. You can also use a sweatshirt or a jacket if they don't have a cushion like this at your gym. I'm going to bring the barbell close in right here on top of my hips. And it's so important to make sure your feet are in alignment here. You don't want your feet too far out, and you also don't want them too tucked in. I place my feet at a 45-degree angle, so just right in the middle. They're probably a little bit longer. For your shoulder blades, you want to bring them directly on the bench, and this is something else that I see a lot of people doing, is their upper body isn't on the bench enough. So I always like to get locked and centered before I even start the exercise, and I'm going to show you how to do these wrong first. This is doing a hip thrust wrong. I'm out of control. I'm out of alignment. To help with that, getting your shoulder blades on the bench, you want to keep your upper body locked and in center. If you remember when we warmed up that hip hinge. This is going to come into play here. You want to scoop your lower body almost like you're scooping an ice cream cone, and you're keeping that upper body locked and in center. So here to here is not moving. It's locked. Your chin is tucked in center. Your feet are in alignment. You're looking directly straight in front of you, and your lower body is scooping. Now, something else that helps is if this bench is not at a good height for you, something that I will do is grab a weight and place it on the ground. Not very smooth, but here we are. This is gonna help you get that shoulder blades on the bench so that when you're here, now, even right now, I feel a little bit more locked and loaded like I was doing before, so that all that's coming is that hip hinge. So again, remember, doing this improperly is this. Doing it properly, nice and controlled, in alignment, your upper body is locked, your chin is locked, and you're scooping that hip. And this is gonna help you just get on the bench a little bit more. Mistake number 3 to avoid is doing the same exact rep and set for every single exercise. If your goal is to grow muscles and to get a defined and toned glute, that means you need to be progressive overloading. And what that means is increasing the intensity or difficulty of your exercises. Now, I want to caveat this and say, if you're a beginner, getting the proper form is the #1 most important thing. That means making sure that every time you do the rep and sets that you're performing everything at the best and optimal form. Now, if you've got the form down, you want to increase the difficulty, and that can look different. So the first way you can do it is by increasing the volume, or you can increase the weight, or you can make the exercise more difficult or more intense. The goal of this video, the goal of what we're trying to do is grow our glutes. So that means our reps are gonna stay between 6 to 12 reps. And so with that, then every single time you're doing a hip thrust or a Bulgarian split squat, to increase the difficulty, one thing you can do is increase the weight and then decrease the amount of reps that you're doing. So for instance, if I was actually doing a hip thrust set right now, my first set would be 8 reps. And then my second set would be 6 reps, and then I would increase the weight. And my third set would be about 6 to 8 reps, depending on how I'm feeling, but I'm really making sure that I'm pushing myself. If you're getting to rep 7 or 8 out of 8 reps and it doesn't burn, it doesn't hurt, it's completely fine, that is a sign that you need to increase the difficulty. Next up, we're doing a dumbbell sumo squat. And I know I say this about every exercise, but this one is also a goodie. So what you're gonna do is keeping your feet now wider than shoulder length apart. So that's what's gonna make this a sumo. Keeping my feet now, and then also, my feet are going to be pointed a little slightly outwards. So before, when we were doing a lot of our exercises, our feet were in shoulder length apart, directly going forward. For a sumo position, you're wider than shoulder length. Your feet are coming out. For grip position, you're gonna wrap your right hand over top, and then your left hand is gonna come right underneath, securing that dumbbell. Again, your feet wider than shoulder length, and then your butt is directly down. You're looking forward, and your chest is tight and engaged. You don't want your butt here. You want it here, down, tucked in, locked and loaded. You're pushing through the heels even when you're starting, and you're engaging that glute. So the entire time I am breathing and pushing down. You should feel like something is pulling your feet down into the ground as you engage those glutes. Oh my gosh, these burn. They burn, but that's how you know it's working. I touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but tip number 4 to avoid is not consuming enough protein. If your goal is to gain muscle, you want to have about 0.5 to 0.8 grams of protein per body fat. And so that's going to depend on if you're a woman or male. And of course, it's also going to depend on your weight. But what protein is going to do is allow your muscles to grow in the way that they need. So if you're not consuming the adequate amount of protein on a daily basis, your muscles will not grow. The last exercise is the glute hyperextension. So this is a little bit different from the regular extension. So I'm going to be really particular in showing you the nuances of this so that you don't get it confused. So a regular extension, your feet are forward, pad is about hip level. You want to make sure the pad isn't too high. So for instance, if this pad was up here, you wouldn't be able to engage your glutes as much when I show you the rest of the movement. Now, if you're trying to do a regular extension and engage your hamstrings, then having the pad a little bit higher isn't bad. But because we're trying to focus on our glutes, you're gonna lift the pad down just slightly so that the pad is coming roughly right about here. And then if you're doing a regular extension, you would just come up and down, up and down. But because we're focused on our glutes, what we're gonna do is keep our feet pointed out just slightly. You're going to round your back. And I know this seems like not the right thing to do, especially from the beginning. We talked about engaging that hip hinge. So for the glutes, you're gonna have a rounded back here. Your hands are gonna come centered, and you're only gonna go about 3/4 of the way up. Like so. So again, a regular extension not focused on the glutes would look like this. A glute hyperextension, pointing the feet out, rounding the spine, shoulders come in, and you're only going up 3/4 of the way. To wrap up the video, let's talk about expectations. The reality is results come when you stop obsessing over them and start enjoying the process. Take your time, do each rep and each exercise to the best of your ability, and I promise you, over time, you will start to see your muscles grow. It's important to remember that you can't undo years of bad habits in 1 week. I highly suggest that you perform this routine once a week for 8 to 12 weeks. And I know that seems like a long period of time, especially those compound exercises. You want to be performing those consistently, and that's going to help you see the results that you're looking for. Remember that consistency is key.